Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me for another Westworld review. Today, I will be talking about Season 1, Episode 3, The Stray, and as always, there will be some episode spoilers. So, before I go any further, I would just like to say I really do like Westworld so far, but I do still have some issues with the show and think there is room for improvement. This episode I actually think is a little bit of a step back from the first two, but I do still think it's worth watching, and I think there's a little bit more good than bad here. But I did think this episode was a little slow and uneven in parts. So we started out positive, really strong with William, one of our gentlemen that we were introduced to last week, and he becomes a hero and saves Clementine, one of the girls from the saloon. And it seems like William's really coming into his own. Unfortunately, we don't see any more of him till the very end of the episode, although he does play an important part in the last scene. So I'll get back to that in a little bit. So then we go. One of the key characters in this episode was definitely Bernard, who I have to say, excellent performance by Jeffrey Wright, who stole this episode and in some ways saved it, in my opinion. And I do want to thank Westworld for giving one of the human characters more background, like I asked for. I do appreciate that. I'm glad they're listening to me. I'm sure it's not because of me, but So anyway, we get this backstory from Dr. Ford. As Bernard is still researching the hosts, he goes to Dr. Ford for answers. And Dr. Ford says he used to have a partner that was named Arnold, and he's the one that put the code in the host that it seems like now is allowing them to remember certain things. And we also learn, maybe more importantly, that Bernard lost a son, and this weighs very heavily on him. And it's actually affecting his views of the hosts, which I have a feeling will be very significant to the show later on down the line. Also, another thing that was kind of a mixed bag for me, Teddy gets a new scenario, and the episode spends quite a bit of time on this, but I have some issues with this. First of all, let me just say his backstory is pretty typical. He's basically just tracking down a villain, and he ultimately gets caught in a trap and probably killed again, which I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke or if we're just supposed to keep feeling bad for Teddy every week that he keeps getting killed. But the scenario itself, although very well shot and filmed and somewhat compelling, is pretty typical, and I'm not sure how it fits into the overall narrative. We'll have to wait and see. And I have to say, the scenes with him and Dolores, although the actors have decent chemistry, I don't know why they added these into the backstory. Backstory usually gives you new information on a character, and we already knew that he and Dolores have a thing going in these scenarios. I thought that was kind of strange and kind of felt like padding on the episode, but I guess it was fine. But my main issue with this episode, I apologize if anyone's really enjoying the Elsie and Stubbs scenes, but these were painful to watch. I don't blame the actors. I thought the dialogue was very forced. It felt like cheesy dialogue in a serious show, and it didn't really work for me. Their basic plot is important. They're basically trying to catch a runaway host. And they do find the host at the end of the episode, and he almost attacks Elsie. She could have been in big trouble there, which I'm sure is significant for the coming weeks. But I just don't feel like these characters are fleshed out enough for us to care about them. And the bad dialogue, in my opinion anyway, doesn't really help either. So this episode ends with a very good scene where Dolores plays out her scenario again at home. But this time she defends herself. She shoots a man that wants to have his way with her, I guess is a good way to put it. And she runs off for help and runs into William. Now, whether this is something she's programmed and supposed to do in her scenario or not, I'm not really sure, but I have a feeling that maybe she's not supposed to do this. And that's how the scene ends. And I also have to say, I'm very disappointed that we got no Man in Black tonight other than a cameo in Dolores' visions, flashbacks, whatever you want to call them. I feel like Ed Harris's character is one of the more interesting ones on the show, and I felt his presence could have helped the episode. But I understand there's a lot of characters, and they can't focus on all of them every week. So overall, a lot more setup until I really see where these plot lines go. I can't really say for sure if they're good or bad, but this episode taken on its own, I'm going to give a 3 out of 5. I felt there was some good, some bad. I felt there was enough good in the episode to make it worth watching. So a 3 out of 5 for The Stray, and I look forward to next week. As always, you can leave a comment, tell me what you liked or didn't like about the episode, and thanks very much for watching.